are you doing?
I'm training to be a Protoss.
Oh no.
My skills are just atrophying.
You guys are ridiculous.
I know, I'm looking at cars on the bridge, so I can think about it.
Like, I actually looked at the bridge, and I think, is that the bridge from Destination? Or, no, what's the Steps of War, whatever that was with the
I keep thinking if the United States allied with the Protoss and a mothership came down, it would cloak all of Manhattan.
You think a mothership's that big?
I think it would cloak all of Manhattan, or at least the bridge.
Starcraft discussion 962.
What can't you go back to? Like with Starcraft 2, are there things that you are like, I cannot go back to this in Starcraft 1. I don't know how I dealt with this.
Yeah, there's a lot of things actually. I mean, for one, as Protoss warping, I've already gotten used to it. Where at first I thought that this was going to be so awkward to try to warp in from every gateway. It's so incredibly easy, and it's something that I can't imagine playing Protoss without now.
Yeah, like even with Zerg or any race now, with the whole worker rally point.
Yeah, the auto mining.
Yeah, like I can't even picture going back to Starcraft 1 and clicking on a drone.
Yeah,
like
we did that.
Like it makes no sense to me. Like, and it's only been like 3 weeks ago since we last played Starcraft 1.
Yeah.
Like I can't even remember clicking on drones and sending them to mineral patches. Like I really, even late in the game they'd pop out and you would still click on them and put them to minerals.
It's amazing that with all of the gateways that people had and production buildings that players had, and all the drones that kept popping from multiple main bases and expansions, that they always got their workers directly onto minerals immediately when they were built, and they always rallied all of their units to where they needed to be immediately. And people were worried that with that missing in StarCraft 2, that it would lower the bar for skill.
Well, I think that's been the case mostly throughout the whole StarCraft 2 beta. Is a lot of people have been complaining about the differences and whether or not they can get used to it and things like that. But I've been finding, at least in talking to people, that the more that they play it, the more they appreciate the changes.
There's actually, people are saying that there's more to do in StarCraft 2 with base management and macro than there was in StarCraft 1.
Yeah, that was kind of weird to me. Like, especially with the auto mining, I was thinking like, oh wow, cool. Now I could just focus on the army itself completely.
But it's not.
But it's not. And then I was thinking, okay, well now they have the 2 gases. They have 2 extractors on each expansion and on your main to kind of make. For a while they were playing with the mechanic of overheating extractors, which was kind of lame.
Yeah, that was kind
but,
of actually, it still feels a little unnatural that there's 2 gas, to be honest with you.
I kind of like it better, because it lets you directly control exactly how much gas you're getting.
I like that.
Early.
But the one thing
especially even for Zerg and Hive and Lairtech, like, if I'm going for a Roach-only build and then switching to something else, like, I just need a specific amount of drones, I guess.
Is it weird to you seeing 2 gas, or is it...
Well, I was just going to say, I have a new confession to make. To be honest with you, when we're discussing graphics and getting used to it, I'm a Zerg player, and I actually completely destroyed my economy the first time that I played because I was so busy focusing on the fact that the spawning pool looked awesome and that there was an individual swimming in it, and then it popped incredibly, that I actually completely forgot about my drones and lost the battle because I was just too focused on what was going on.
I always used to wonder, how does a drone actually turn into a building? And now you can actually see the little drone swimming around inside.
But he gets bigger.
Yeah, he gets bigger and bigger, and then he explodes into a building.
But I think that's fascinating, and I think that's why people have been so distracted by the differences, that they've been having difficulty really getting into the meat of it and the interactions between the characters, you know what I mean? Because there's so much more now to Protoss and to Terran and to Zerg that watching them, as a spectator is absolutely fantastic, because there's so much more to see and to know and to understand about them and the interactions.
You don't find it more confusing at all to watch, because there's so much more, even the backdrops are so intricate now.
So detailed. You can see planets and stuff in the background.
But see, for me that's fascinating because, when I first started watching StarCraft 1, it was really difficult with how low the settings for graphics were to distinguish between units and characters and things like that. And with StarCraft 2, I find that it's actually a lot easier to tell the difference between Protoss characters and Zerg characters and Terran characters.
Yeah, that's one thing, is that people have been complaining how hard it was to see the difference between units. But I think that they have to remember that they're so used to StarCraft 1, and that actually, if you have somebody who's never seen StarCraft 1 or 2 coming in and watching a game with both, I think that they would actually be able to tell what's happening in StarCraft 2 much easier than they would in StarCraft 1.
And it's weird, because coming from someone who's so used to watching StarCraft 1, where my eye is completely trained to it, and I prefer the simpleness of the graphics just because there's so little going on. You know, it's like reading it's the difference for me between reading a book on regular paper and reading a book on like some kind of shiny, you know, with graphic kind of little flowery patterns in the background. My eyes don't know where to go anymore.
Oh my God, the bee's back. The bee's back.
Why are you running?
From the bait.
Just do this. You do this, it protects people.
Oh, okay.
Well, you guys have mentioned like tier 2 and tier 3 and things like that. Do you find now that with StarCraft 2, the matches are getting longer, or you guys are really trying to gear yourselves for, you know, tiering rather than the quick rushes, or are we still in quick rush?
Well, no, it's, the games in StarCraft 2 seem to be like much shorter than games in general in StarCraft 1.
The good ones. Yeah.
The good ones, and the thing is I feel like that when you have 2 players in StarCraft 2 involved in a longer game, it tends to be just because both of them, for whatever reason, decided to go for econ builds instead of going for rush builds. But whenever you see a player go for a rush, it tends to be effective, or they tend to lose quick. And I feel like the games, there's very little reason at this point for players to be going for econ builds.
So is that because, you know, they've done such a great job pitting, you know, the units against each other, or do you think it's just because, you know, some are just so cleanly overpowering others early game in rushes?
No, I just think it's because there's more to do early game. Like there's like I was looking on the forums and some people were talking about how they think, you know, there's going to be a lot more opportunity for econ games coming up. Yeah. But right now I don't see that. I see too many opportunities to rush from all races. Well, not really so much from Terran, but from Protoss and from Zerg. There's too many early opportunities to get in there and screw with people that I don't. And also the timing of expanding is very difficult to do right now.
Yeah, figuring out expansion timings is really hard. And I feel like with Terran also, though, there's this really awesome timing push that Terran has right now, which involves a bunch of Marauders and some Marines. And right about the time that they start to get out maybe a medevac ship, a drop ship, they can push out into a really awesome timing push, which is still a really early rush. I mean, it's still at 5 or 6 minutes, 7 minutes. And so, I mean, all the races seem like they have, plus, I mean, they have their Reapers, they can rush too.
And that's the one thing where I think would be great for esports, in the sense of if that trend continues of people harassing and screwing with the person from the start, it could be a lot more entertaining to watch.
I agree with you in part, but I also think that that for esports that it's important to have some longer games that go on. Having a 5 or 6 minute game and a match that's decided in 15 minutes, it might be better if they go a little bit longer, like to 10 to 20 minutes.
Well, I think as you see more people becoming, you know, adept at countering each early attack, you're going to see a better back and forth and a longer game in general.
As a spectator, though, I mean, there is something very exciting to all of a sudden see this rush go off, and all of a sudden units are flooding somebody's base, and, you know, people are getting annihilated and stuff.
That's true.
But it also, you know, it would be really sad if that's all that spectation has become, is just watching somebody, because it's rare and it's beautiful, and to execute it, you really have to be skilled, and you're watching skilled players combat each other.
More than executing to be skilled, coming back from it is the real skill. But I still think there's opportunities to come back from rushes. It's a little bit tougher now, but I think it's just because we're so not used to
if you think about it in StarCraft 1, the reason why we've gotten to this point where we have these long economy games in StarCraft 1 with such great macro is because people know exactly the threadbare minimum of what sort of defense they need to hold off early, where you can get that emergency defense in place if you scout a proxy or a rush and still survive. And I don't think we know yet in StarCraft 2 exactly what the bare minimum of defense that we need is. And so you see people erring on the side of caution and going all in with these rushes, or trying to go for econ games but not having adequate defenses early. And I think as people adapt to StarCraft 2 and start to figure out exactly what that bare minimum of defense you need and exactly how you need to play to defend from early rushes from different types of all these different cheese strategies, that you'll see these longer games.
Everything comes with time. I'm just saying that over time, I would be really, really sad to find that StarCraft 2 becomes a series of very quick rushes. No matter how unique they are and no matter how many different ways you can do it, I'd like to see some really long, intense games where there's somebody coming back from a rush and then somebody combating it, and there's that challenge there. There's that chess player mentality of what can I do to counter and recounter.
I think it's definitely something that, since we're still in beta, that they need to keep an eye on and make sure that it's something that's possible and that it's something that develops. But I think that, I don't know, I'm somewhere in the middle of the road in terms of that topic, because part of it is, they have to be careful with that, but also maybe we have that already and we just haven't gotten to that point with our experiments.
I'm actually not too worried about it. Like, I feel like all the changes that have occurred from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2 have been, like, every little concern that I was like, oh, this is going to ruin the game, and on the forums, this is going to ruin the game.
A lot of things ruin the game, apparently.
But I feel like everything's been executed almost perfectly, and I think Blizzard, there is such a huge focus on making StarCraft 2 like a international esport, and taking it over from the Korean corporation Monopoly who owns it now. That I think it's going to be.